What's up, guys? It's Coach Grant with First Down Training, and today we're going to be breaking down some of the best advice that I can give quarterbacks to fix an overstride, lack of hip rotation, and being able to get more velocity, more distance, and more consistency on the football. So we're going to be looking at two clips here from Malik Willis, and we're going to be talking about how he overstrided a little bit on his motion on this specific clip, how the Tennessee Titans are trying to fix that overstride with a great drill that you can do, and then we're going to be talking about how Tom Brady has all of these issues fixed with a clip of his mechanics. So I hope this video helps you guys out. I hope it teaches you a few new things about throwing mechanics overall. But also, fellas, if you're a QB, we have one more opportunity this offseason to get some work in with us. We are traveling out to Los Angeles, California on July 30th and 31st for a 2-day long QB and wide receiver training clinic. So if you guys want some more information on that, check out that very first link in the description below. Let's get started. So obviously, everybody loves to talk about like the phrase, oh, this quarterback's overstriding. He's got this really wide base when he finishes on the throw. And we're going to talk about how to correct that. So ideally, if you're familiar with what we talk about on this page, Malik Willis is in a great position right here to be able to generate power, to be able to rotate from his hips, and be able to drive on the ball. What I love to talk about is you want this back foot to be underneath your back shoulder. You want about 65 to 70% of your weight on this back leg. And then when you transfer your weight, because this back foot is underneath your shoulder, it makes it easier for the hips to rotate through. You're able to drive the knee through, and everything's just going to come out effortlessly. Your legs and your hips are making the throw. Now, the mistake that a lot of quarterbacks will get into when they get to this real narrow base is that they will push off of their back foot. So rather than shift the weight off of their back quad, you don't want to think of it as a push off the foot. You want to think of it as just a weight transfer. You're taking that weight from your back leg and shifting it to your front leg. So you see what Willis does here is it looks like he's pushing off of that foot. The back leg extends, and that's what causes that really long front stride. Now, I'm not a baseball guy, but I'm sure some of you guys are baseball guys. And when you guys come off of a pitcher's mound, what do you normally do? You normally push off of your back foot. You push off of that rubber, you push off the arch, and pitchers have what? A really long stride. It's a different type of motion. I heard somebody talking the other day about how it's the same thing, throwing a baseball, throwing a football. Polar opposites. It's more similar to hitting a baseball than throwing a baseball. Now, when that long stride happens, the issue with that is that you're not going to be able to get any hip rotation. You guys could try it right now. Stand with your feet super wide and try to rotate your hips. Your hips will lock out. Now stand with your feet underneath your frame and try to rotate your hips. It's a lot easier, but that stride length is the key to be able to get there, because now you see when he goes to throw, watch what his front hip does. Watch how this front hip kind of locks out. You see how there's not much rotation. That front hip isn't opening up, and that back foot kicks behind him. Right? So we're going to show a drill here in a second that the Tennessee Titans are trying to do to fix this problem, but this is why it's an issue, because the hips don't rotate. So now what ends up happening is that your throwing sequence is off. When you guys are throwing, the sequence should be front stride, then hips, then shoulders, then the football comes through, just like hitting a golf club. You take the golf club back, you pivot off the back foot, the hips come through, the club is trailing your hips. Same thing, we want the football trailing my hips. But when that stride is long, and now my hips aren't even rotating, the back foot's swinging behind, the shoulders end up beating my hips. And you see how Willis, when he goes to throw, the shoulders are here, but the hips are back here. That puts a lot of stress on the elbow and a lot of stress on the shoulder. And so many quarterbacks have this problem. And Willis is actually doing a really good job fixing this, and you see the more recent clips of his throwing motion. Now, everybody talks about the lean, too, with him. When that long stride happens, the hips don't rotate, so he starts to lean out of the throw because that's the only source of power. When you swing your front elbow down, you swing your front shoulder open, you lean out with your head, all those are going to be able to create momentum and power, but that can affect your release point. When your front side, your shoulder, your elbow dips this way, what do you think your arm does? Your arm comes out this way. So he probably has an issue of missing maybe a little bit high, letting that thing go early, having it shoot high, letting it go late, having it shoot low. But it all starts with those hips. So make sure, fellas, that we are trying to correct that overstride. We are not pushing off the foot. We are shifting off the quad. So I'm going to play this full speed, and then we're going to show that drill that I keep talking about and why maybe it's not the best course of action for this problem. So this is one of those common quarterback drills that you see everybody doing nowadays. They'll put these bags in between two quarterbacks' feet, and they'll try to have them throw. Now, the reason people do this is because it forces quarterbacks to not let this foot swing behind. They can't have the foot swing behind, and they can't push off of this foot to overstride. They kind of have to get the front foot down now, and they're forced to have to pivot off the back foot, because if they swing that foot behind them, like we saw in the last clip, it'll hit the bag. So that's why they're doing this type of drill. Now, this type of drill I don't necessarily like for Willis's problem, because it still is going to put him in the same wide position that prevents hip rotation. Because what did I say in the very, very beginning of this clip? I said that Malik Willis wants his back foot underneath his back shoulder, so when he goes to transfer his weight, it's easier for his hips to rotate. So now let's play this full speed. Because he's straddling these bags, his feet stay in the exact same position they would be as if he was taking an overstride. That back foot is outside of his frame. That front foot is really wide outside of his frame. So he's still not going to be able to get that hip rotation. Now, in the days of people, you see all the time these guys on Instagram, wherever, teaching, you got to keep your weight back and you just want to pivot off the back foot. If you don't transfer any weight and you don't get that front hip to open up, you're not going to get your hips. You're not going to transfer any weight at all. You're not going to get any power on the ball at all. Yeah, it might look cool because you're pivoting your back foot, but find me one NFL quarterback that throws like that. Now, I'm not saying that pivoting your back foot is incorrect. I'm not saying like this. I'm not saying that dragging your back foot is the only way to do it. And I'm not even saying kicking the back foot up a little bit is wrong. I think they're all correct. I think the main thing you have to do is you got to be able to get your hips to rotate through. But when you are in a super wide base like this, and like I said, we're going to show an example of Tom Brady doing pretty much the exact throwing motion that they're trying to get with him. When this back foot is wide, I don't care if you pivot. I don't care if you're thinking about shifting your weight. If you're thinking about pushing, this definitely will happen. That foot is going to extend, is going to stay back. That back hip is not driving through enough. That front hip is not opening up enough. So look at what ends up happening. We said the shoulder sequence should be what? Front stride, then hips, then shoulders, then ball. But now look at this. He's here, not enough hip rotation because his base is still wide. Look what happens. Shoulders are coming through way before the hips do. And that puts a ton of stress. When you're holding the football at this position right here, that puts a ton of stress on the shoulder and a ton of stress on the elbow. Yes, his motion is a little bit quicker. Yes, the front foot is down faster, but there's still not any hip rotation. That's why they're doing this drill, because a lot of people teach this drill because it forces you, when you're in a wider base like this, not like the narrow base we saw Malik Willis in, when you're in that super wide base, it forces your front foot to have to come down. But your feet are still outside of your frame. It's a quicker stride, but you're still not able to get that hip rotation. So what they should be working with him is maybe not, having a full-on bag in between his legs. You see so many guys do that. Maybe put something a little bit smaller, something that could allow this back foot to stay underneath his back shoulder and still force him to take a quick stride. Maybe instead of putting this bag right here, we put him in a good base where that back foot's underneath his shoulder, his weight is loaded back, and we put something here to prevent the long stride. So now he's in a good position to get his hips to go through, the front stride's able to get down, and his hips can actually rotate, not be in this weak, wide base position. So let's play this thing again, full speed. I think his motion definitely looks quicker, and the front stride will quicken up your motion. But just because you have a quick motion doesn't mean that you'll be able to throw efficiently, and doesn't mean that you'll make it look effortlessly with your weight transfer in your hips. I see why the Titans are doing this with him, but I think there's just a better and more efficient way. Let's play this thing again, full speed, and then we'll look at that Tom Brady clip of exactly what I'm talking about. So just make sure, fellas, when we do these types of drills, you got to know the reason why, and you have to understand it's about your hips being able to rotate. So let's look at this clip here from Brady. This is a clip that he posted a little while ago, just pretty much showing a bunch of different arm angles, a bunch of different throws that he has. But let's talk about some of the key consistencies here. So this back foot, where is it? Underneath his back shoulder. His weight is loaded, his weight is back. That is exactly where you want to try to be pre-throw position. That's 70%, 65, 70% on this back leg he's loaded. Because now when he goes to transfer that weight, those hips are actually able to go through. The knee will be able to drive, the back hip will beat the football through. So look when he goes to throw. This is the same position Willis was in. It's not a base issue for him. It is a weight transfer issue. So you see when he goes to throw, look at the front stride. It is a quicker stride. He is shifting weight from here, and look what that allows his hips to do. Hips can come through. Look at his front hip. His front hip's actually able to come open, and look at the difference. His hip is here. His knee is going through. There's not an extension of the back foot, and that ball is trailing the hip. That is the position they want to be in 100% of the time. But when you guys are here and you're in that base like we saw with Willis, and he pushes off of the foot, that creates the long stride. So I don't blame Willis. I think he's doing a really good job being coachable and doing what the coaches are telling him. But when you're not doing the right things to fix the habit, you're still going to have that same exact problem. Especially when we pull you off the drill, you're going to resort right back to bad habits. So you have to make sure that we are doing drills that translate. Because when you put that bag in between like Brady's feet and this back foot gets super wide outside of his frame, even if he does take a quick stride, that leg is going to extend, and that's putting all that stress on his shoulder and his elbow, because the shoulder and elbow will beat the hips through. It is not about a base thing, fellas. You can keep that back foot under your frame. You could stay loaded with that back leg. It is about a stride thing. Can I get the stride to go down? Can I transfer that weight to get those hips to beat that shoulder and be smooth? And this is an effortless throw. There is no stress on his elbow or shoulder. It's all hip rotation. Knee is driving through. You see, just like the last clip, his back foot kind of pivots, but he also drags it. That's completely fine. Even if he picked the foot up off the ground a little bit, that's completely fine. We just have to make sure I'm in a good pre-throw position to allow my hips to go through. My stride is quick. I'm not pushing off of the foot. And let's get my hips to beat those shoulders and beat that football through for optimal power and consistency, fellas. Make sure we are doing the correct things and know the reason why behind certain drills. It's all about quick stride, hip rotation, weight transfer. Let's play this thing again, full speed. That's a great example there from Brady, doing the things that we want to always try to do on every single throw with my lower half. All right, fellas, I really want to thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. If you guys have any questions at all, don't hesitate to leave those in the comment section below. I hope this video helped. I know there are a lot of common misconceptions with the stride, with the base, and I hope that cleared some things up to show you guys the correct hip rotation and weight transfer to have on a throw. And also, fellas, if you guys are local to the Los Angeles area and would like to get some work in with us, check out that very first link below. We have one more 2-day-long QB and wide receiver training camp. So check out that link in the description. I'll see you guys next time.